And hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Shabbat Show special edition. It's Purim. What an incredible, incredible time of year. This is really something that is beyond words, beyond moments, beyond this world. Purim is the greatest holiday in the world. As you know, every holiday is so wonderful, but each one is special in its own way. And happy Purim to everybody who's here with us tonight. Hope everyone's having an incredible time. If you had the opportunity to go hear the Megillah, awesome. If not, please do it in your home. Open it up, read the story, read it in English, read it in any language you want. It is a special mitzvah, a special obligation, a special opportunity. No matter where you are, no matter your background, no matter your denomination, it doesn't matter. Wherever you are, Jews from all over the world share in this story and share in this miracle. And if you can celebrate in any which way, it's amazing. It's an honor to be with you again in the show. And this is a special show. This is about Purim. Now, I know you're going to have parties and you're going to be able to watch videos of people doing flips and, rabbis dancing. And we're going to have a little bit of that, but not so much in the show. The goal for this show really is to get underneath Purim a little bit. It's to try to see the value, the relevance, what it means to us. There's a lot of fun in Purim, and we don't need to add to the fun. We'll have some fun, but the goal of the show for tonight, which I'm so excited about, is to show the relevance, the majesty, the holiness of a day that seems pretty secular. So I'm excited to be with you right now. The show, of course, is sponsored, as always, as the program of the Carl Enoch Goldman Center for Jewish Values. We thank Jay Goldman for his sponsorship. Before we begin, just a couple of quick announcements. Mindflex, check it out this week. Tuesday night, Rabbi Stephen Bars, and Wednesday night is Rabbi Josh Brody. And on Sunday, there's an Israel virtual tour with David Sussman, the Golan Heights at 10 a.m. Let's jump in right away and understand what this is all about and what Purim is really all about. One of the greatest mistakes that we make is how we understand spirituality. For many, spirituality is the negation of physical. People that are spiritual don't engage in this world. They don't think like us. They don't have our desires. They don't chase the things we chase. They don't live in this world. And when you think of somebody who is spiritual, we think of it as they are there. If we think of the world as spiritual, we think that heaven is up. Spirituality, holiness, God, these are all concepts that seem to be far from us, that we aspire to, but don't really feel like. If you look at the schedule of holidays and you ask yourself, how would I rank them in measure of holiness? Where would Purim rank, right? Where would Yom Kippur rank? Number one, no? Like, does it get holier than trying to be an angel? You wearing white, no eating, no drinking, we don't wear shoes, we pray. Where would Purim rank? Last? Like, wouldn't it? Like, don't you feel like Purim is like the recess period of holidays? Like, God's like, listen, you guys worked really hard in September, and I know, and I appreciate that. And in a month from now, you're not gonna have bread, and that's pretty hard. And I make you sit in a booth, and you know what? How about I give you one? Like, I'll give you like recess. You go play in the yard. So, just run around and drink and eat and find a way to stuff more fat and carbs and feel like you're getting mitzvahs for. Like, this is what you do. Like, doesn't it feel that way? Like Purim is like a total day off. Well, the Arizal, one of the holiest men ever to walk the face of this earth, says actually, in the rankings of holiness, you know where Purim lies? Number one. You know what the secret, how you know? Because Yom Kippur, which is you would think was number one, is really short for Yom Kippurim. And in Hebrew, Yom Kippurim, if you translate it literally, is a day like Purim. There's something about Purim that makes it the holiest day of the year. What we're going through, we are just beginning a day that is holier in some respects than Yom Kippur. Well, how is that possible? So we're going to talk about it on the show. We're going to learn about it on the show. We're going to learn about some of its customs. We're going to learn about some of its historical pieces. We're going to hear some songs. But I want to share with you maybe a perspective, which is the spiritual world is not what it seems. And God's playbook has changed. When you think about Purim, ask yourself, what's the lesson? What do I gain out of Purim? What is it trying to teach me? Because when you get Purim, now you're reading God's playbook. Purim is much more than just a day on the calendar when we eat and remember a story from a long time ago. And on the show, we're going to bring this out a little bit. But let's begin by having a little bit of fun. And of course, there's a great video that I saw years ago when it first came out that I really enjoyed and appreciate. It's from the group, the Maccabees. Check out their song on Purim.
Stand for a tale so grand. Shushan is the place where it all began. The hidden miracle. One man, second in command. Slay all the Jews with his wicked plan. A scheme so miserable. He chose a day for the disaster. It's ironic what came after. He didn't know a girl named Esther would turn it upside down. So raise your glass if you can see the hidden meaning. It's right in front of you. We will never be anything but proud to tell the story. Then now for who? Won't you come on and raise your glass? Just come on and raise your glass. Esther became the queen because God was pulling strings from behind the scenes. She wore the royal crown. 3 days the Jews just prayed. Queen Esther risked her life, went to save the day. She took Haman down. The streets were filled with celebration. Everyone ate hamantashen. Jubilation for the nation. So raise your glass if you can see the hidden meaning. It's right in front of you. We will never be anything but proud to tell the story. Then now for who? Won't you come on and raise your glass? Just come on and raise your glass. Won't you come on and raise your glass? Just come on and raise your glass.
So get your costumes on, make noise and drown out Haman. Don't drink like a fool, and remember what the day's about. So raise your...
Wait, cut. Was that the door? Can I help you guys?
I heard there was a party here, man!
I think you have the wrong house.
Wait! Afraid of important.
Come on in!
So raise your glass if you see God in hidden places. He's right in front of you. We will never be anything but proud to tell our story in a half of who. So raise your glass if you can see the hidden meaning. It's right in front of you. We will never be anything but proud to tell the story. Then now for who? Won't
And that was the Maccabees. Raise your glass if you seek out in hidden places right in front of you. You will never be anything but proud to tell the story. Story of Purim is the ability to seek out in hidden places. The story of Purim tells us a lot more. It's not right in front of our faces, but we seek it out. It's the challenge. It's the responsibility of Jews to clean their glasses and look for gods in the hidden places. Before we continue on, I want to share with you an incredible interview that I had. You know, Purim is a time of lots and lots of food, of course, and we have all these foods that we eat, and we sort of like know that they come from like something Jewish, you know, like we sort of get that we beat somebody and then we eat, but we don't really know how and what. I had this wonderful opportunity to catch up with Dr. Yvette Alt-Miller to talk about the foods that we eat on Purim. Dr. Miller lives with her family in Chicago and has lectured internationally on Jewish topics. Her book, Angels at the Table, A Practical Guide to Celebrating Shabbat, takes readers through the rituals of Shabbat and more, explaining the beautiful spectrum of Jewish tradition with warmth and humor. It has been praised as life-changing and a modern classic, used in classes and discussion groups around the world. I had a chance to catch up with Dr. Miller to talk about the various foods that I knew of and that I never have heard of before that all relate to Purim. Check this out. Dr. Miller, welcome to the show and happy Purim to you.
Happy Purim. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I know that you're so busy with the holiday, everything going on. So Purim is a day that it's so fun-filled. It's so all over the place. You're running and going. And we do things all the time. And sometimes we just don't realize the history, the meaning behind the things we do. So we have foods, we've got customs. Let me begin by asking you, what is your favorite food or custom about Purim?
Well, food is such an important part of Purim. We give mishloach manot, gifts of food to our friends. And then, of course, we have a Suda on Purim, a big festive meal to celebrate the day. And I think like a lot of people, my favorite Purim food is hamantashen.
As is mine.
I've already started baking. And there are a lot of different fillings in hamantashen, obviously. My favorite, that's what these are, is poppy seed. A lot of people think that hamantashen is called hamantashen just because it recalls Haman. I know a lot of people say that the triangular shape of a hamantashen reminds them of Haman's hat. In Yiddish, actually, hamantashen means Haman's pockets. So a long time ago, we made fun of Haman, in that way. And there's also another reason we have this cookie, hamantashen, to celebrate Purim. In Yiddish, man, which means poppy seed, sounds a lot like Haman. So there was that pun as well when people first started making hamantashen in Europe. There's a lot of food symbolism on Purim. Some of it has to do with destroying Haman. Like when you go to shul on Purim and you listen to the Megillah Esther, that tells the story of Purim, every time we hear Haman's name, we all say boo, or we wave groggers to blot out his name. Mm-hmm. So there's a tension there. On one hand, we have to remember Haman, obviously. He was a descendant of the tribe of Amalek, and it's a biblical mitzvah, a commandment to always remember how cruel they were, how they tried to destroy the Jewish people. So we can never forget. But at the same time, we also do want to sort of blot out his name. Mm-hmm. So when we eat something that is named after Haman, like a hamantashen, like his pocket or his hat, it's sort of a way of destroying him.
Interesting.
So
interesting how I just love that. I'll tell you why. It's so Jewish to be like, hey, how are we going to obliterate him? Let's just eat it. Like, what I'm saying? Like, no, don't stomp. Don't destroy. No, don't do that. I have a better idea. Consume it and make it fattening. Like, I just love so much of what you said speaks to me on so many levels that like we are taking matters into our hands through our stomachs. Like I love that. I love that.
So true. It's so Jewish to eat to have nice foods. I have a couple other really kind of unusual less known ways that we kind of destroy Haman in our food. Sephardi Jews might know this. This is my very first effort ever making this. Okay.
Oh my gosh, I'm
Does this look
Sephardi
like
and I've
a
never
set?
seen that.
Okay, this is meant to look like Haman. This
It's good. It gets real close. I gotta tell you.
okay, this is a Sephardi. It's Sephardi. It's a bread. It's called, has a Ladino name, which is the language that the Sephardi Jews spoke. Comes from Spanish. It's called Ojos de Haman, the eyes of Haman. And I mean, I guess the idea is that you eat the eyes first. It's so kind of yucky. But I used a really nice challah recipe for this, and I tasted the bread, and it tastes really sweet and good. So again, there's like
it's gonna get consumed.
You want to
got no chance.
Yeah, you want to make it sweet.
That's so cool. That's probably more in the world of Sfarad, of Spain, that world, as opposed to the world of the Middle East. But it's a fascinating, very similar, custom and I've never even heard of before. That's so cool.
Well, I have a couple others. A lot of the Sephardi Jews went to the Balkans, to southeastern Europe, and there they made their own Purim pastry. Now, again, I tried baking it. This is my first attempt, so it might look a little messy. It's called a foulare.
A foulare?
It's basically challah dough, very sweet, and inside is a hard-boiled egg. It's a little bit like the ojos de Haman with the eggs.
So how does in the bread is the egg?
Well, inside.
Okay, I got it.
A little bit. Inside is an egg. There he is. The egg is supposed to represent Haman. It's like he's in jail. It's like we locked him up in jail.
Wow.
So again, that's kind of a sweet treat. And when we eat it, it's kind of like saying, oh, we're getting rid of Haman.
Wow.
There's another reason that these kinds of foods are eaten, and it's kind of a deeper meaning. Again, it has to do with food symbolism. So not only do we want to destroy something with the name Haman, but a lot of Purim food has a dough pocket. Like if you look at a hamantashen, there's that sweet filling inside, but you can only see a little bit. It's really covered with dough. There's another common kind of Purim food, kreplach. I brought a couple samples that we're going to have on our Purim Suda. Now, these are little pieces of meat covered in dough. They're very delicious. And they are eaten on traditionally 3 Jewish holidays. It's traditional to eat kreplach, anytime you want, because they're delicious. But they're really customary on Yom Kippur, on Hoshana Rabbah, and on Purim. Now, these are the 3 days in the Jewish year when we say that we're sort of judged. On Yom Kippur, God judges us. What kind of a year are we going to have? Are we going to be inscribed for a good year or, God forbid, for a bad year? Hoshana Rabbah is the last day of Sukkot, and it's sort of the end of that whole Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur season. And we say that Hoshana Rabbah is really our last chance to sort of repent and do tshuva and be sealed in the book of life for a good year. Then the third Jewish holiday that we eat kreplach on traditionally is Purim. Again, on Purim we were judged. The Jewish people were going to be destroyed in ancient Persia, and God intervened. And we say v'nehafohu, and all of a sudden, just in the blink of an eye, everything got turned around. Now, at the time, during the time of Purim, the Jews didn't realize what was happening. This was the first holiday that took place outside of the land of Israel. And there were a series of miracles in the story of Purim, but it wasn't like what we were used to. It wasn't like, say, the miracle of the holiday of Shavuot, where we all stood at Mount Sinai and we all heard, I am God, and it was like a really obvious miracle. The story of Purim had miracles, but they looked like a series of coincidences at the time.
Yeah.
It was a coincidence that Esther was chosen to be queen of Persia. And it was a coincidence that Mordecai happened to overhear people plotting to kill the king. And then he became an advisor in the palace. And the whole story of Purim really took place over lots and lots of years. And it was only afterwards that the Jews could look back and say, aha, God was present, but he was hidden. And we call that Hester Panim. Literally his face was hidden. God was there, he was helping us, but we didn't really see it so overtly at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another reason that a lot of Purim foods contain something that's hidden, like the poppy seed in a hamantashen, or
the egg,
or
in the
the meat inside a kreplach.
Right.
Another reason we eat kreplach on Purim, on Yom Kippur, and Hoshana Rabbah, these days of judgment, there's a sort of symbolic idea that when we eat meat, we're being a little cruel to the animal. We're allowed to eat meat, but there's a certain sort of hardness in eating meat. So on a holiday where we're judged, we want to conceal the meat in dough, which really is, it's vegetarian dough. It comes from wheat, and it's much more nurturing. That reflects the nurturing, more kind side of life, and that's what we want God to be reminded of when we're being judged.
Dr. Miller, I thank you.
There's another tradition on Purim to eat beans, lentils. I have an example of a bean dish here. Sephardi bean dish that we're going to have on our Purim Suda. And that's because when she was queen of Persia, there's a Jewish custom, or when she was queen of Persia, Queen Esther concealed, again, there's that word concealed, she hid the fact that she was Jewish. Mordecai told her, yes, go become queen of Persia, but do not tell anyone what people you belong to. And she hid her Jewish identity for years, but she never really gave up on who she was. Queen Esther had 7 different servants, one for every day of the week. And that way she always knew she could keep track of which day was Shabbat. Mm-hmm. She never lost track, even though she had no calendar there in the palace. And she was a vegetarian when she was in the palace. So she did not have to eat any meat that was not kosher. And she really just subsisted on beans and lentils. So in Queen Esther's honor, it's very traditional to eat beans and lentils to recall her devotion.
Incredible.
Then there's one last food item I have here. It's traditional to have a Purim Suda, a Purim meal. It's very festive, and to have challah. Now, I don't know how this worked out. This was an experiment of mine. Sometimes people try to make special challahs for Purim because it's a fun holiday and you try to, dress up and do unusual things. This worked out a little messy. I put poppy seeds, mun, in my challah. Again, that recalls, Haman, and it's also really sweet and delicious. And I braided it, and then I made it into a circle. So I think it's a bit messy. Some people say that another really nice reason to have challah on Purim is if you braid it, hopefully a little neater than I braided it, it looks a little bit like a rope. And that reminds us also of the rope that Haman wanted to hang Mordecai on. And of course, it recalls how that plan was thwarted, and luckily Mordecai survived and triumphed.
Amazing. Well, Dr. Miller, thank you so much for bringing such wisdom and thought to the things that we take for granted. And I know no matter who is watching this, their Seudas will be enhanced because of your words. I think I'm going to go out and make some new foods with my wife and add some new stuff to our table. And I appreciate your insights, and I wish you a happy Purim, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Happy Purim. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. Purim Sameach.
And that was Dr. Miller. It's amazing the traditions that we have. And what even gets me more excited about that conversation, first of all, is the stuff that I didn't even know about. Did you know that like beans and lentils, like I never ate that. And the stuff that like was the Sephardi stuff, like I had no idea about the egg and the bread. Like, are you kidding me? But the idea that we have so much meaning, but there's the deeper piece to this, which I found everything was amazing, but what I really loved was what she said about the hidden pieces, the hiding, the meat surrounded by the dough, the hiding, the creating the pockets. Because that's the story of Purim. What makes Purim an amazing holiday is that it's our holiday. You see, it's hard for us to appreciate this because we're commemorating it like a holiday, right? We show up, we read the Megillah, we tell the story, we know it's a God-driven event because we made it into a holiday. But I want you for a minute to be the Jews in Shushan. They didn't know how it was gonna work out. And they're used to something. Meaning, think about it historically. The Jews have been exiled from the temple, the first temple, right? The first temple was a temple of miracles. Fire came from heaven to be on the altar. They saw miracles all the time. They had prophecy. They had prophets walking around. They had prophets foretelling what was going on. They all had a prophecy that in 70 years they would be redeemed that was on their lips. They lived in Israel. They never lived outside Israel. They never had diaspora. They don't have like, we were once in France and in Germany, then we were in Russia, we went to the Holocaust, and now we're in America. They didn't have any of that stuff. They lived in Israel with God and the temple and prophets. Now they're in Shushan. Now they're in the Persian Empire. They went through Babylon, but now they're in the Persian Empire. And the king seems to have given over the power, the legislative power, to Haman, the anti-Semite. Haman was like the first legit anti-Semite. Like we've had a lot since, but he was like the first real anti-Semite. Like a good, real, I hate the Jews, I'll destroy myself, Hitler-esque anti-Semite. That was the first time we had that. We don't have a history of that. We don't have people that have survived that. When Haman passed the law and the Jews protested and they saw that Achashverosh and Haman were eating dinner together and the band was playing, they were heartbroken. They were heartbroken. It was over because the playbook that they were used to was miracles. They were used to God showing up and splitting seas and bringing manna from heaven. They were used to the temple and miracles. They were used to the prophets sitting and going, do this, and God will. Now they were all alone. God was nowhere. Because if he was somewhere, he would have came in by now. Because he knows how to do this thing. If he was somewhere, Haman's hand would have frozen by now when he went to sign the law. And the ground would have opened up. And Shushan would be filled with locusts. And none of that happened. What happened was, it happened to be that Esther was in, and it happened to be that when Haman passed the law in the beginning, it created a mockery, and some people didn't take it. And it happened to be that she asked for a meeting, and Achashverosh happened to say yes. And that night, Achashverosh happened to not be able to sleep. And then he read the book, and the book was a discrepancy, and it happened. They didn't know it while it was going on. You know when they started to realize things were putting together? After it was over. You know, you stare at a painting and you're like, this is the ugliest painting ever. It's just green blotches. And the person's like, taps his shoulder and goes, yeah, why don't you back up a drop? Your nose is at the painting. And you're like, whoa. You're living in Purim and going, where's God? And they're like, yeah, why don't you back up a drop? See how that all played out? They're like, that's God's playbook now. I'd love for him to split a sea every once in a while, to be honest. I really would. I thought he would do something in the virus. I thought like when Corona hit, there'd be like I thought last Passover, we would see like some massive miracle. I'd love to see that. Until we know otherwise, that's not God's playbook today. Hopefully it'll change, but he's in the shadows. He's pulling the strings through the world of coincidence. It just happened to be. It just happened to be. The Israelis just happened to get a tip that the Egyptian Air Force guards switch places at 8 a.m. so they can wipe out the whole Air Force before the 6-day war. Just happened to be. And Purim is the day where we go, there is no just happened to be. And when we start to see the world from that perspective, we start learning God's playbook. The playbook that me and you live in is the playbook called Purim. And Purim is not just a story, it is a shifting of our lenses. Because when you learn the game of Purim and you put on your glasses, you see it in your life. When you look back and go, didn't just happen to be, you find Purim everywhere. Check out this untold story of Purim that took place with another massive anti-Semite that fell out just at the right time. Check this out. Wasn't that incredible? Just so happened to be Stalin dies right before Purim. You want to hear something incredible? If you have a chance, we can't do it here. Google Purim Fest. Go to h.com and look up Purim Fest. If you don't know what I'm talking about, get ready to be blown away. h.com. Google search Purim Fest. The Munich trials. Just so happened to be. This is the greatness of this holiday. It's fun and it's awesome, and we got to dance and have a great time. But we can't leave Purim and not get the glasses. Purim is my life and your life. It's finding God in every nook and cranny of our lives, of our secular, regular lives. Mordecai and Esther were secular names. It took place out of Israel. God never appeared. It was a regular story of one government official against another. But what we did was looked at it and said, that's not regular. There is no regular. We accept you and see you, God. And when a Jew does that, sees God in the mundane, that is holiness like you can never imagine, because it is easy to see God with manna falling from heaven. You don't see God in Yom Kippur? Lots of Jews show up on Yom Kippur because it's easy to see God in Yom Kippur. You know where it's not easy to see God? On a Purim. Even some of the most devout Jews are out to lunch on Purim because it's a hard day to find God. But people have been finding God forever on Purim. I had a chance to catch up with Rabbi Adam Ross. He is a British-born Jewish educator and writer. From 2015 2018, he was an Aish campus rabbi in Leeds, UK. Now living in Jerusalem, he teaches in Yeshiva High School and is a regular contributor to Aish.com. Rabbi Ross and I had a chance to catch up on a whole bunch of Purim miracles that took place way after Purim. Check this out. So, Adam, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show and happy Purim.
Thank you very much. Happy Purim, Charlie. Thanks for having me on.
It's so great to have you on. I know that you've done a lot of work on the story of Purim. Now, I always thought that the story of Purim is at the time of Purim. And from what I understand, when you look at history, you've found that actually this story has repeated itself a few times. So share with us a little bit about what you mean by the Purim story being in other parts of history.
Oh, let's go straight in, Charlie. Let's go back to the year 1420. Okay, we're in Saragossa in Spain. Not a great time to be a Jew, although in the last 2,000 years, not sure there are so many great times, although we're not doing so badly at the moment. But it's 1420 and we're in Saragossa. Now, the Jews of this particular city have a custom. Anytime a member of royalty comes to their town, as a mark of respect, they take all the Torah scrolls out of the Holy Ark, and they go out into the street as a point of respect. And also it's like keeps them a bit in the good books of the local kings. Now, through time, the rabbis of Saragossa say, you know what, these Torah scrolls are A, very heavy, and B, maybe it's not such a respectful thing for the scrolls. Let's leave the scrolls in the Ark and just take the beautiful ornate boxes out. They won't know, and it's going to be a bit easier. Let's do that. Now, at the time, there's a Jew who's converted. His name's Marcus. And he is in the business of trying to get himself in the, in the pocket of the local Christian kings. And he goes and tells King Alfonso of Aragon. He tells him, you know what? These Jews, they have taken the scrolls out as a sign of disrespect for you. You go and see tomorrow, and you'll see what they're trying to say to you is they're dancing, but it doesn't mean anything. And the king is infuriated. Now, what happens is that night, one of the, as we call them, the Gabayim, one of the people who is running the shul, has this dream. He has a dream. This guy in a white beard comes to him and says to him, put the scrolls back in. And the dream comes again and again and again. And he wakes up and he goes to one of the shuls, and right there is another one of the Gabayim who's had the same dream.
Oh my gosh.
They put 1 and 2 together. People start talking, and word gets back that sure enough, something has been said to the king. The whole thing starts going all crazy. They put the scrolls back into the boxes. The following day, it's like the Purim story, right, Charlie? The following day, the king comes back to town, ready to roast the Jews. Marcus is like, come on, open the boxes up. They open the boxes up, and the scrolls are there. And the king is now, his anger, rather than being vented at the Jews, is vented at Marcus, who is punished. And the Jews write up their story with a scroll that looks, and if you saw this scroll, Charlie, you say, it's the book of Esther, it's the scroll of Esther. But you start reading, and it's about the king of Aragon and the whole business. And you know what? They called it Purim. And you look in the history, it's called the Purim of Saragossa. And you see how bad those times were. About 70 years later, the Jews are kicked out of Spain, and they take this custom with them, Charlie. They go to Turkey, Constantinople, they go to Jerusalem, they go to Salonika in Greece, and they carry on this tradition. This event takes place on the 17th of Shvat in the month, nowhere near Adar, but on that day, every time that day falls in the year, they read the scroll, they have feasts, and they do everything that we do at Purim.
Oh,
so Purim is across the ages, not just in Shushan.
I absolutely love this story on so many levels that I want to bring out with you. We always say that, the 2 days that stand oppose each other, if you will, are the Yom Kippur and Purim. They are in many ways complements of each other and opposites. One is the most holiest, if you will, in terms of the separation from the physical world. One is considered to be the most secular when it's really not, right? The Arizal speaks about that Purim is holy, right? There's always this tension point, and they even sound alike, Kippurim, Purim. And one of the things that I've heard about this, which is so in line with what you just said, is that it's the difference between Purim and Kippurim is that Kippurim is the days, represents the times where God reveals himself. It is a moment of supernatural events. And it's a time where you are supernatural. You don't eat, you don't drink, you're angelic. And Purim is the time in which God represents himself in the normal way. And the reason why the sages tell us that Purim will survive is because we are now living in an era where God doesn't just show up and split seas whenever we need him. Right. Not because he's not there, because that's not how he rolls anymore. It's not a sign that he left. If you don't have Purim glasses, you miss God in this world. And this story, and I'm sure there are others, but I want to bring out that the story is, for me, when I heard it, a representation of the divine providence in the world today, which is one that exists in the shadows, in the dreams, in the coincidences, and that it just happens to be. It's so powerful when I hear you tell this about what happened that I never heard of before, and the fact that they've made the connection. I'm sure that's happened so many other times.
Well, Charlie, what you say, it's so true, because the original Purim story, you put it in the context of this was the last point where prophecy existed. Even in the Purim story, you have the characters of like Daniel, and you have the characters of Jeremiah, who are just in the background, just before the story takes place. Prophecy is ebbing away, and people are wondering, like, where is God anymore? Like, what's going on? Everyone's asking that same question. When across time you have these flashes where things seem like, hey, he's got our back. He's still got our back. Yeah. He gave so much strength. Let me tell you one more story. It'll blow your mind. Please, okay, please. Let's go to the Czech Republic. These days we call it Czech Republic. Back then it was called Bohemia. Okay, a little town called Jung Buzlau in Bohemia. There's a man. His name is David Brandeis, and he owns a grocery store. Okay, one day the daughter of a local Christian bookbinder comes into his store, and she buys the groceries that her parents have told her to buy, and she goes home. Among those groceries is a little jar of plum jam. She eats some of the plum jam, doesn't feel very well. Her father, who's also had some for breakfast or something, doesn't feel very well either, and dies shortly afterwards.
Wow.
So what goes on in this town? Everyone goes crazy. The Jews are poisoning the Christians. They throw David Brandeis in jail. They throw his wife in jail and his daughter in jail, and they close his store down, and all hell is about to break loose. So what does David do? He does what every Jewish character in every story does. He cries his heart out. He prays for some kind of miracle. And what happens next? You could write a scroll about it, and he did. Okay. The Jews in the community are begging the authorities to look into this matter more before they start, rolling all kinds of punishments. They take the body of this guy to Prague, and they look into what actually he died of. And they say this guy died of tuberculosis, nothing to do with the plum jam. Maybe it didn't taste great, who knows, but that's not what he died of. And he's reinstated out of prison. And David Brandeis and his family live to tell the tale They write a scroll. He calls it the Song of Ascents of David. It's in a scroll, and he says to his children, every day this year, you will read this scroll out, have a big party, and he called it the Purim of Plum Jam. The Plum Jam.
Wow.
Now, listen, there are dozens of these stories. I could go on for so long about these stories, but like you said, Charlie, every time this happened, it gave so much strength to everyone to say that koach of that original Purim, we still feel it.
Yeah. As you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, we each should take upon ourselves to write our own scroll. Everybody has something that happened in their lives, and when they look back, they go, maybe it's not as dramatic and as obvious as the stories that you said, but you're giving us an insight that I don't want to get lost, which is it doesn't have to be Haman entire annihilation for it to be Purim. It could be something more subtle in my life and in your life that is still very much a coincidence that's divinely orchestrated. And when you look at the world that way and you make your own divine scrolls, if you will, your own Purim scrolls, then you're really making Purim real.
Wow, that's awesome. Can I just give you one last one for the road, Charlie?
We'll take this one. Yeah, so, definitely.
I was looking at the source of this, as in, is it just the fact that something great happens when you can call it Purim because it sounds like Purim? One of the greatest rabbis that we of halacha is Rabbi Abraham Danzig, otherwise known as the Chai Adam. And I want to look at what the source of this, and one of the sources comes from him. I have his book here, his book, the Chai Adam, and he writes in here, and he writes in here that for someone that a miracle happens for him, he should go ahead and mark it in this way, and he can call it a Purim. And more than that, he says that he can actually, check this out, he can actually obligate the entire town or city to take this Purim, this local Purim, not only for that city, but for their future generations, if it affects the whole town. And he follows up, and I'll finish with this, Charlie, he follows up with his own personal story. And it's written in the Halacha book. It's a whole chapter there. And he says, here's what happened. The year is 1804 in Vilna, where he lives in Lithuania. And there's a terrible gunpowder accident that takes place. A magazine explodes in the heart of Vilna. And Rabbi Danzig says that in his own courtyard, 31 people died. And he writes in his halacha book over here, he writes that in his house, the roof caved in, two of the walls caved in. He says there wasn't one member of his family that there wasn't a drop of blood on, but nobody died. And at that point, he said, we're writing a scroll. We're all going to celebrate this. And he says, if I can do it, you could do it too. And I think just like you said, Charlie, we all have things in our life which come along, be them huge things like that, or tiny things that you just say to yourself, he's looking out for me. I feel it. And when you feel it, you hold on to it. And like you say, you remember it. Whether you write a scroll or you just tell your children about it, or you tell your wife or you tell your friends about it, it keeps the spirit of Purim alive.
Amazing. Adam, thank you so much for joining us in the show. I hope we get to you back on to give us much more of your insights. But we appreciate you making our Purim much more practical and real and tangible that we can take with us and carry on forward. We thank you for being a part of us, and happy Purim.
Happy Purim. Bye, Charlie.
Thank you. Isn't that incredible? The Purim story. I got to tell you something. I've got a Purim story, and so do you. Each and every one of us, if we look back in our lives, I bet you there are many scrolls that we can write. And we should. We really should. We should for our children and for our friends. We should for posterity. We should. Can you imagine if we do that together on Purim? We take that upon ourselves to look back at certain coincidences, how I met so-and-so, how I ended up in this job, how I ended up meeting this person, how I ended up in Israel, how I ended up involved in this organization, how you were born. Can you imagine the gift we give to our family and to our friends when we've taken the time to articulate the Purim stories in our own lives? Can you imagine a better way to spend Purim than to decide that this year, before next Purim, I'm going to walk into Purim with my own Purim scroll? It may not be as dramatic, but it's mine. You know what happens when you do that? You clarify your lens. You clean the lens of coincidence, and you see God in your life. You live Purim. You know, the rabbis tell us that in the end of days, the holiday that won't get abolished, because we'll have all these new holidays, is Purim. And the Megillah will last, because this is the story of who we are. This is the greatest day of the year, because this is the day where God is putting us through the training on how to live and see in today's day with his current playbook. There's stuff going on in the world today, but when you look at it from Purim glasses, it looks different. Check out this video from comedian Elon Gold, and it's just a little bit of what's going on today in some Purim. Check this out, a little comedy for us.
You know, we do have a Haman of our time, and it's the Ayatollah of Iran. He's the Haman of our time. What I'm going to do is I want to send him the Megillah with a little note saying, "Don't you see how this story ends? Don't you get that you're just going to be the bad guy on one of our future holidays? That we're going to be swinging groggers to your name, making triangle cookies out of the shape of your weird ears?" By the way, I keep my grogger with me all year. Some of you put it away. I have it right there on the couch next to the remote control. Anytime I'm like watching CNN and something annoys me, like, Russian President Vladimir Putin. Former Secretary of State John Kerry. Even when I'm like watching The Bachelor, and the Bachelor dude picks the wrong woman, I'm like, Corinne, no! It is a little, immature that we all. I mean, we're grown adults, and it seems childish, I do it, I like it, because I do all of our traditions, but I'm just glad that, my non-Jewish friends are never sitting next to me while I'm reading the Megillah. I don't want to look at me. I don't need that.
And that was Elon Gold, right? Can you imagine? I can't wait. I got to tell you, I can't wait to see what the holiday is going to look like after we're done with Iran. It's going to be amazing. We have great food, by the way, but it's not going to be like hamantashi. I'm guaranteeing you. It's going to be much more Sephardi. I think we're done with the whole sweet bread thing. If you're asking me what's happening next, it's going to be hummus for sure, olives, maybe a little za'atar. Trust me when I tell you that in the next bit of holiday foods that we're bringing to the world, the Sephardim are going to be taking over. That's my call. Just letting you know. I'm just making the call now. But it's so much more because it's our story. That's what Purim is. Purim is our story. And when you have a chance, I know the day is going to go so quick. You got a couple minutes tonight. Go through the story again and look for all the ways in which God was sowing redemption before the problem came. Look to see what happens when Haman leads. Haman was called Memuchan in the beginning of the Megillah. Look what happens when he makes Achashverosh pass a law about women respecting their husbands and how everyone saw it as a mockery. And I ask, wait, because that law was passed and they mocked it, when he passed the anti-Jewish law, that's probably why they didn't go out and kill the Jews right away, because they weren't sure, because the last law was such a failure. Vashti dies, Esther gets placed way before the story. A decade before the problem. Mordechai happens to be sitting there and he overhears two ministers trying to kill Achashverosh. He saves them. It gets put in the book. But guess what? The book that it got put in, no one ever read. It was his personal book. And the actual main Chronicles was changed because the author of the Chronicles was Haman's son. But only on the night before, when Achashverosh couldn't sleep, did he open up his private book, and for the first time in 9 years, see that there's a discrepancy between Haman getting the credit, but it really was Mordechai. Interesting how that came right at the right time. Had he noticed that a year earlier, who would have cared? It came right at the right time. Notice how everything was planted. Everything was set up. The night before, he builds a gallows for himself. He goes and asks for permission to Ahasuerus at the morning after Ahasuerus just realizes that he may have lied. It all unravels around. Everything that was the evil becomes the path to good. Read it. Start to see that each piece fits like a puzzle. Everything connects. Because each and every one of us live lives that seem fragmented, but they're really not. It's a puzzle. It's God's puzzle for me and for you. Because we all have a path, we all have a journey. And you can't see it when you're going through it, just like they couldn't. But if you don't look back every once in a while and read the scroll, you never see it. And that's the story of Purim. The time where we pause and look back and go, wow, look at that painting. He's got my back. There's something bigger in the world. My life isn't random. Someone's up there pulling strings for me. When you appreciate that and see that in something in your past, in the Jewish past, in your community's past, it strengthens your resolve. It strengthens your faith. It allows you to deal with challenges when you don't understand why, because you know you'll look back at some point and you'll get more of it. And allows you to realize that you're really important. So much so that it's worth the master of the universe's time to orchestrate the key pieces of your life. And in many ways, that's what Shabbat's all about. This is a special Purim because it goes into Shabbat. Shabbat is a time where we stop and realize that there's a purpose in this world. And I'm important enough in his eyes to give testimony and to be his partner in creation. So on behalf of me and mine, to you and yours, I want to wish you a double blessing. A happy Purim and a Shabbat Shalom. May this Purim be one that you see things you've never seen before. May your life be Purim. May you always live in Purim. May the holiday start with you but never leave you. And may your scroll only be filled with good. But may it be a scroll that you look back on and let it strengthen you as a gratitude to God. And may we go into Shabbat taking those ideas and reinforcing them into our hearts so that we're different people. As Rav Dessler once said, you don't observe holidays, that you go through them. They change you. I hope and pray next week we can do this show in Jerusalem, but if not, I hope to see you back here. And until then, happy Purim and Shabbat Shalom.
Together, call it I do, I shoot. With every generation, they take one, raising the haters. Then a shim hit the pavement, blazing the savers. Then the world asks where they went. Patients are faithless. The Torah gave the whole world a facelift. If hatred is baseless, we take it, erase it, and exchange it for that master goal. We don't forget wherever we may go. There is only one place we know, and it's called Zero. We won.
Pieces and you're just falling down, falling down. I pick you up, and if you feel like you're outnumbered on a battleground, and you had enough, well, I will be there for you every time. As you turn around, I will let you down. I'll be there, and we'll both become brighter than the sun. Together we and